Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Sometimes people wonder, like, when you get to 20 years, is there a secret? And I don't know that there is, other than, like, don't take yourself too seriously, right? Mm-hmm. But part of the reason we wanted to bring up this painting is because part of the reason I made this was to talk about this concept of relationships. And it's funny, like, we were talking about the old days of when we were first dating and homecoming and prom and all that stuff. And everyone thinks the beginning part of a relationship is the best part. Like, everyone's all excited and you're curious if the person likes you or likes you. And just even a touch from that person sends shivers up your spine. And the way they chew their food or borrow your coat when it's cold is still cute, right? All of those things. And that... You know, the beginning stages are good. They are exciting and fun. But what it reminds me of a little bit is sort of like the, it's like bread and cheese, right? So bread is good, cheese is good. When you're first starting out, you're like two separate entities like bread and cheese, and you put them together and that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. But Johnny Cash, he was right. He said love is a burning thing. And that's why this painting is called A Ring of Fire, because it doesn't get good until you start to go through some fires together. You start to get a little of that char, that crispiness. You melt and you become one. And if you've ever tried to pull apart a grilled cheese sandwich,
which
it's
I
not
do
easy,
because
right?
I like to put pickles on it.
Put pickles on it. And it's hard. And that's how it should be. It's hard to separate a grilled cheese sandwich. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's kind of what it's like is like it doesn't really get good until you get through some hard times. And you know, I don't know if there's any sort of secret. There's a little bit of luck, I'm sure, but there's commitment, there's communication, there's all those sorts of things. But I think if I think of one thing, I think about our parents. Our parents have been together for a combined 90 years of marriage.
That's crazy.
They have been through some fires together. Both sets of them. They've been through some ups and some really hard downs. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I think inspired us, they inspired us, is there was a sense of like, we're in this period, no matter what. Like, the reality is like, love is not a feeling. At the beginning, it's kind of a feeling. But once you go farther along, love is a choice. It is a choice that, for me and you, like when we said till death do us part, we really meant it. My parents, your parents, they really meant it. And so there's something about, like, in my head, I just eliminated us breaking up as an option. When we fight, which we do sometimes, we get passive aggressive with one another. We do the cold shoulder thing. It happens. But plan A is to work it out. Maybe it takes 24 hours. Maybe one of us has to not be so stubborn. It takes a little bit. But that's plan A, is to work it out. There is no plan B. There is no plan B. Now, this can be thrown out the window, of course, if both parties aren't on the same page, right?
And that does
sometimes that happens, right? Where someone throws in the towel, someone flakes out, someone doesn't live up to the promise, and that is devastating. It's heartbreaking. Right. But the main message I just wanted to share was that I want to give hope to the newlyweds, to the people thinking about giving this love thing another shot, maybe to the people who are in the middle of one of those fires right now. Is that this is an opportunity for it to get even better. That you can come out the other side. That you can make good things come out of difficult situations, which is a lesson that we are all learning right now in the middle of this pandemic, right? Once you get past the lovey-dovey stage, things get real. Things will flare up. You'll encounter fires, and you're going to come out a little charred, right? But the thing is that char, the battle scars from a life lived together, the richness, the depth that adds, the magic, a regular old cheese sandwich can only dream about. So I think to me, that's the key, is that it's a choice. And those fires are not a sign that things are going bad. It's a sign that you can get stronger and you can get even better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you feel about that, or what.
Well, this is definitely a subconscious metaphor of living in Wisconsin for 20 years as well, I'm sure.
Yes.
Every time Jason goes out on a stage in his introduction, it talks about cheese, So I think there is something to be said about has cheese taught us?
Yeah, it's like cheese
sandwiches are
layered
terrible,
metaphor.
Right?
Tune in next week when we talk about cheese curds and create a great metaphor around that. Right?
Oh, yeah.
I love that Kathy says, in it to win it. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Barb, no fire, no grilled cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Kim, love is a battlefield. Indeed.
Yes.
Really good. Okay. So basically we have a couple tips,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
We didn't want to do the whole communicate with each other and don't cheat on each other. Like those are kind of good. Yeah, we know. Thanks for that.
Maybe that would have been our lessons after year number 1, but hopefully we got a little bit more insight.
So those are kind of the
later.
Basics. We were kind of we wanted to dig a little deeper because maybe there's an insight that going through the process ourselves helped me to be like, that is kind of a thing that we do. So
here's the first one: find your daily ritual. Okay, so for Jason and I, it is walking. And this started when we were dating. We would walk around my parents' neighborhood when he'd come over to visit, and just, maybe it was just something to do because we lived in a small town. There wasn't much to do. Mm-hmm. But it started into a routine that we love to go on walks. That's where we process things. That's where we kind of hash out our opinions and our thoughts and our dreams. And then, of course, when we moved to Madison, started our company, we didn't have any money for a long time, ever. And so we would go on walks by the lakes, and that was part of what drew us to Madison, was the beautiful walking paths. So that's our daily ritual, but what's yours? So if you guys don't have one, maybe it's an opportunity to find one, whether it's sipping coffee together on the porch swing, or just trying to find something that you love to do every day. A lot of times it could have to do with drinks or food. Because you're doing this anyway. But maybe that's just part of the day, is you look forward to kind of having a little moment together at the end of the day, a little happy hour or something. Yeah,
I've heard of hot tub out on the back.
Which would be amazing. Yes, that would be awesome.
Bicycling together. Anyone, a lot of people already said you've been married for a while out there. What are some of your rituals that you guys got? Because share a ritual of yours. Maybe someone who doesn't have one or needs a new one will see something in the comments and think of something good.
Just a little check-in every day, right? All right, this one I think is kind of a little controversial. So here we go. We'll bring it up. BFF, be friends forever. Now, this all happened when Julia Roberts, there was a movie. It was My Best Friend's Wedding. Is that what this was? And then at the end, she didn't marry her best friend. So basically, I remember this movie when we were dating. We had this whole big conversation of shouldn't your best friend be your spouse? And then other people are like, no, my best friend is not my spouse. So long story short, the point I think that I bring from this is your best friend is the first person you go to when you have really, really big news, high
good
or
bad,
low, right? Yeah. Who's the one you call? Who's the one you text? And so that's the challenge. I think it really is important that person is your spouse.
Does that mean that I don't have to go shoe shopping anymore?
I never take you shoe shopping. So it's not about shoe shopping and coffees. It's about who is your go-to for the highs and the lows in the day-to-day. If that becomes someone other than your spouse, then I think that gets challenging later, because that bridge, that connection gets a little wobbly. Right?
Yeah,
so
I
that's my opinion. You can feel free to disagree, but I think you agree with me. Yeah. All right. Share a mission. Go ahead with that one.
Yeah. So obviously you guys, we kind of are doing a thing here, this escape adulthood thing. And it's what's interesting about it is we didn't know we would be here 20 years ago, here literally on doing this or any of that. I didn't know I'd be doing those. But one of the things that strikes me about our wedding day is we were very intentional to stand before God and say, we are yours. And we were really, I remember really being like, I felt like he put me and Kim together for a reason. And I had hopes, I had dreams, we had ideas of, I mean, obviously we had the Kim and Jason over here. The Kim and Jason characters already alive. And so we thought, that might have something to do with this whole being more childlike, but adultitis wasn't coined yet. But we were very intentional, like, there are things that only we can do together rather than if we were apart. And for us, that turned out to be this business, this mission that we're on, fighting adultitis. But I think it's helpful if every couple has some sort of mission. It doesn't, you don't have to go into business together or anything, but if there's like a cause that you really care about. I know Mike Schroeder is watching here. Him and his wife have been foster parents.
And congratulations on your recent adoption.
The adoption,
I know,
huge. I mean,
so
that's something to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know that. I don't know if I could do that. Like
foster parent journey.
That's not what I am called to, at least right now. But like for people that are, that's a mission, right? It might be helping out at the church together. We know a lot of couples who work together and do different things at their church and bring their talents that way. So I feel like that's an important thing, to have something that you're both working on together. And of course, if you are blessed with children and have kids, that is a solo mission. This one is kind of a fun one to think about, because we love live music.
We love live music, and for a while now, we've been big fans of the Weepies. Okay, husband and wife, Deb. You'll know the names. Deb Tannen,
Steve Tannen.
They're from California, but they have the most amazing harmony, and we have seen them perform live a handful of times. And whenever we're there, we're like, oh my gosh, they are just such a beautiful mix of compliment and whatnot. And so the concept for this one is sometimes someone has to take the lead and be the lead singer, and someone does the complementary harmony in the background, and that should ebb and flow. So for instance, we have a friend, Meg, who her husband, she had a business, but her husband was going to go back to school and get his master's degree and advance in his career. So she kind of sang harmony in the background for a while and took the lead with the kids and kind of put her business growth on the back burner a little bit so that he could take the lead and sing lead singer for a while. And now, how many years later? 15, it's reversed. So he's already in a place where he's, where he wants to be, and she's growing her business and it's really taking off. So it's like there's this ebb and flow of lead singer and background singer, and the harmony is what is so beautiful, is as long as it's transitioning. Yeah,
it needs to be, and you need to trade off, because if one person is always the lead singer and always gets to be in the limelight and do their thing, that doesn't work as well. So you have to balance that out a little bit.
And this one is like almost like the cherry on top for us. It's like kind of the foundation of everything we talk about, which is stay seriously silly. Don't take yourself so seriously. And Jason, actually, we have this joke that we've had since we've been dating, is like, he has to make me laugh every day. So when he does, oftentimes he'll point it out, like, yes, made you laugh today. And it may seem silly, but it adds that little playful spirit. And when you're first dating, of course, you're silly all the time, because it's flirting, especially if, you're in a situation where you don't start dating right away and you're just kind of flirting around. And that's just natural.
Pillow fights. And
there's all these excuses to kind of get close to each other and things like that.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
But as after a few years of marriage and life and work and kids or whatever your life is, it's not as easy to be silly. It's just easier. You get more attention when you're crabby, I think, when in a relationship, because then the other person is like, what's wrong? And da-da-da. And that can be like a little bit of drama that creates attention. And that's not the kind of attention you should want for one another. The silliness is much more healthy.
The silliness keeps it fresh. And that's why this week's prescription is so important. So whether you're newly married, been married for 30 years, this is your prescription, is to do something together that is typically seen as inappropriate for someone of your age. by someone with adultitis, basically. Right.
And I know people talked a couple weeks ago about flying a kite would be a good one.
Yep.
Right?
Getting Happy Meals,
Mhm.
having a living room picnic, you know,
Yeah.
things like that.
In
Building a
fact,
fort.
Kara, Tracy, and Paul this week had a water balloon fight at lunch.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Paul didn't make
He
out
didn't
so
fare well. He lost, it looked like, from the pictures. Yes.
But 30 years of marriage, right? Like, you do stuff to keep it fresh. It's awesome.